You're tuned in to WODU, the best in college radio. This is Cup Check, best sports radio show in the world. Say it every week. Continue to say it, because it's true. We got a lot going on in the sports world since last Thursday. A lot of big games in college football. Florida State pulled out a close one. 4 of the top 5 teams in the SEC, or in the top 25, are from the SEC West. Broke a record there. You got baseball tonight. World Series starts. Get my prediction of who wins and in how many games. NBA, a high-ranked player last year, dropped out of the top 20 in the NBA rankings this year. And then, of course, you got the NFL. Everything from Percy Harvin to the Redskins quarterback problems to Peyton Manning breaking records. It's all on Cup Check. Stay tuned and find out. Get the best outlook on sports. So starting with college football. It's usually what we start with here. You got Florida State. They beat Notre Dame in a close one. Very close one. It actually came down to the last play of the game where Florida State gave up a touchdown. Looked like the game was over at that point. Notre Dame scored a touchdown. They were up by 34. Would have been 34 if they kicked the extra point, but 33, 31 with 7 seconds left, something like that. Maybe not even 7 seconds. And there was a penalty called. Offensive pass interference was called and pushed them back all the way from the 4-yard line to about the 20. I think it was the 17. And Notre Dame didn't score a touchdown. Florida State won by 4. Notre Dame got the first loss of their season. 6-1 on the season now. They were 5th at the time. Florida State went 7-0 now in the season. A lot of people are taking away from this that Notre Dame is still a very good football team. Everybody's kind of didn't take anything away from Florida State. A lot of people actually don't like them over the field. A lot of people like most teams over Florida State that aren't even in the top 10. I mean, people are taking Kansas State or Baylor over Florida State, which is absurd. But I'll get to that in a second. Speaking on this game, Notre Dame only dropped to 7th. They dropped 2 spots. But losing the number 2 team in the nation by a penalty that iffy on the call. I mean, 50% you call it, 50% you don't. To call a game, to have a game outcome impacted by that, that's maybe something you don't want to have on your resume as a ref, just because everybody's unhappy with something, and that obviously was a tough call to make. But because of that call, Florida State wins, Notre Dame loses by 4. And that probably pushes Notre Dame out of the playoff race, if you really want to talk about all the playoffs and all that going on. Because you look at it, and Mississippi State, Florida State, Ole Miss, Alabama, Auburn. I mean, all 5 of those aren't going to go undefeated throughout the season, partly because only 2 of them are undefeated, besides Florida State, of the SEC teams, because they got to play each other multiple times. I mean, Alabama's still got to play quite a few of those teams. I mean, Alabama's got to play Mississippi State and Auburn, both in the top 20, both in the top 5. So either Alabama's falling out or Auburn or Mississippi State is falling out. Mississippi State obviously has Alabama left, and they have Ole Miss. Again, both in the top 5. Ole Miss at 3rd plays Auburn in a couple of weeks. They still play LSU, who's ranked in the top 25, but 24. And then Mississippi State at the end of the season, as I mentioned a minute ago. So those teams aren't going to... There's no way that any of those teams, besides one of them, maybe Mississippi State, maybe Ole Miss, goes undefeated. The rest of them are at least have 1 loss. Most of them are going to have 2 losses out of that. I mean, Mississippi State may go undefeated. Ole Miss will lose 1. Alabama's probably going to lose another one, and Auburn's probably going to lose another one. Notre Dame, looking at their schedule, Arizona State's the only one I can see them losing. Maybe USC, depending on how that goes. But the way they did play against Florida State, I got to assume that they're going to play very well against those 2 teams. Yet at Arizona and at USC. But the way they play versus Florida State, I have to assume they're going to play those games very well. In Florida State, the problem with them is their defense is awful. I mean, they gave up almost 300 yards passing that game. 300 yards rushing, I apologize. They gave up over 300 passing. They gave up 313 passing, and actually they only gave up 157 rushing. But Florida State only rushed for 50 yards. I mean, Florida State had only double-digit rushing yards, and they really relied on Jameis Winston, who only had 2 touchdowns and an interception. Winston had a lot of yards, though. 273 passing. That's a lot. But you look at Golson, Heisman hopeful, the quarterback for Notre Dame, 313 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, not what you're looking for, 33 yards rushing. It was a good day for him. He looked like a better Heisman candidate than Jameis Winston. And with everything going on around Jameis Winston, nobody's going to vote for him. I mean, it comes down to that. Nobody's going to vote for Jameis Winston because of his off-field activities, and there's better players out there. I mean, if they would have had the exact same game, Golston and Winston, people would have taken Golston just because Jameis Winston has off-the-field activities that the voters don't like. And until he cleans up his act, it's going to stay that way. Now, is that fair? It's up for your discretion. It really just matters about what the individual person thinks. I think he's a good quarterback. I think if he's deserving a Heisman, he should win it. I don't think he's deserving a Heisman. He's not top 3 right now. I mean, you look at the quarterback of Mississippi State. You got Bo Wallace. You got Prescott, the quarterback of Mississippi State. Bo Wallace. Gordon, running back for Nebraska. Even the running back for, I think it's Illinois, is just having a remarkable, remarkable season. Wisconsin is actually who I was thinking of with the running back, Gordon. The running back for Nebraska I was also mentioning, though, in Abdullah, who has over 1,000 yards rushing and 14 touchdowns. He's been on a tear, too. So all these guys, Mariota's above him. I'm not saying Jameis Winston should win the Heisman, because he shouldn't. But the team is still good. Yeah, okay, you don't like the guy, you don't like his Heisman chances, you don't like his off-the-field activities, he stole food, he's accused of a sexual assault that's being looked into. The autograph scandal coming out, did he get paid for him? We got to find out. Yeah, you don't like the guy. Okay, I understand. You don't want him running your franchise. But he's the quarterback of a team that hasn't lost in 2 seasons. I don't see how you vote against them right now. Yeah, okay, they're not playing up to par, but they did just beat a number 5 team in the nation. Yeah, okay, it was on a bad play. They got lucky, this, that, and the other. They beat number 22 Clemson without their quarterback, which is difficult when you just throw in this random quarterback and say, good luck, let's win. Yeah, it was at home versus Notre Dame. But Florida State won. Okay, it came down to the penalty at the end. Well, maybe it was a penalty. Maybe it was actually a good call by the ref, and that's why the guy was so wide open. That would explain why he was so wide open, because there wasn't a guy around him. But Florida State won, and Florida State is the number 2 team in the nation, and I would take them over almost anybody in the nation right now. I mean, them and Mississippi State are going to meet in the championship. I just see it going that way. Ole Miss, they're good. Yeah, they beat Alabama, but Alabama has proven they're not as good as they usually are. Yeah, they've only got 1 loss, but a couple of those are close wins. And even though their coach, Nick Saban, doesn't like fans are expecting us to blow them out, it's still a close win, and that looks bad upon your team when you're trying to get into the championship. You should blow out teams. To beat Texas A&M, who's really fallen off, is that even really a strength builder anymore? I don't know, because they're not where they should be. It's 6-2. Yeah, they've played tough teams, but they're 6-2 in 24th. If Ole Miss can beat Auburn in 2 weeks and not lose to LSU and then beat Mississippi State, we'll see. But I don't think that's happening. Mississippi State's a better team. You look at Mississippi State. They still have to play. They beat Auburn in a close one. Actually, it wasn't that close. Take that back. But they beat Auburn pretty convincingly. So therefore, right there, Auburn's worse than Mississippi State. So there's that. Then you got Alabama. They got to play Alabama and Ole Miss later on in the season. Florida State doesn't have anybody left to play. I mean, Boston College has been playing upset this year. Virginia's been playing okay, but it's at home versus Virginia and at home versus Boston College. Miami's not going to do anything. Everybody's like, oh, Louisville might do. It's at Louisville. Okay, Thursday night. I can see how maybe a trap game. But I don't see Jameis Winston losing that. He always shows up to the big games, and that he did that versus Notre Dame. Yeah, they won barely, but they won. He threw for 217 passing yards. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns. He only had 1 interception, so he didn't cost him too much in the turnover department. Yeah, the offense looks stagnant. They didn't lead until, I believe, the fourth quarter. They might have led it into the third quarter. But I believe they didn't lead until the end of or start of the fourth quarter, actually. Yeah. Yeah, they didn't lead until the end of the game. Their last score was a lead. They were tied throughout or losing until the last play. And Florida State only rushed for 50 yards. Notre Dame, I believe, has a better defense than Mississippi State. I mean, Notre Dame has the 17th best defense in the league in points against. That's a good defense. Against a high-powered offense, yes, but with a lot of problems swirling around their star player, which hurts the team a little bit, whether they want to say it or not. Mississippi State has a little worse. They're 19th overall. Still a very good defense playing LSU, Texas A&M, and Auburn, but they've given up over 21 points to all of those teams. I mean, they shut out Southern Miss. They gave up 34 to UAB, and they only gave up 3 to South Alabama. You take away those two games versus nobody, and I mean, UAB put up a ton of points on them. Florida State is going to go toe-to-toe with Mississippi State, and it's just going to be a firepower off. It's going to be a day where you're throwing for as many touchdowns as you can and as many yards as you can. Jameis Winston has 1,878 passing yards. Dak Prescott has 1,478. Just put that in perspective for a minute. Jameis Winston has more yards passing in less games because he did not play versus Clemson. He's got 1 less touchdown. So Jameis Winston has 1 less touchdown and almost 400 yards passing, more passing than Dak Prescott. So right now, if I was to build a team, and it's actually exactly 400 yards, that's a little odd. But if I was to take a quarterback and put him on my team and say, okay, I need my team to lead me to a championship, I like Dak Prescott. I do. He's only got 4 interceptions. Winston has 6 on the season. He's got less passing yards, 1 more touchdown. Dak Prescott. I'm going to take Jameis Winston. I know what he can give me. I know what Jameis Winston's giving me. He's giving me a quarterback that off the field has some issues. Off the field, he's not the smartest. But on the field, he's going to get the job done. Because he hasn't lost a game in his career. So until he loses a game, or until he puts up a goose egg, or suspended the rest of the season for something, I'm taking Florida State over the field. Florida State, if Jameis Winston is playing, is the best team in college football. I said it. There it is. They're better than any SEC team. Yeah, Mississippi State's playing tougher competition. That's why they're ranked higher. Florida State isn't playing as tough competition. But Jameis Winston is still getting the job done. They're still undefeated. You just got to be undefeated and make it to the 4. You make it to the Final 4, that's when you determine who's the better team. Right now it would be Mississippi State, Florida State, Ole Miss, Alabama. Florida State would play Ole Miss. Florida State is a better team than Ole Miss. Bo Wallace, he's not great. I mean, Bo Wallace has more passing yards, more touchdowns, same interceptions. Yeah, okay. But I don't know what I'm getting with Bo Wallace. I don't know. I can't rely on Bo Wallace. Yeah, he's been good this year, but what did he do in his previous years? His career, he has 33 interceptions, 57 touchdowns. So he had 40 touchdowns and 28, 27 interceptions before this year, where he's having a pretty good year this year. I mean, a lot of people like him for the Heisman. I think that's probably not going to happen. There's better candidates out there, but Florida State would beat Ole Miss in that, and Mississippi State would probably beat Auburn, and we're going to find out. And that's the thing. It's going to change. If Oregon doesn't lose again, Oregon probably creeps in there. Alabama, Auburn, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State, out of those teams, 2 may make it. Florida State's going to make it, and that leaves it open for Oregon, Notre Dame. Depending on what happens, TCU, Kansas State, because they play each other soon. West Virginia's ranked now, so that helps TCU and Kansas State some. Maybe, just maybe, a third SEC team creeps in there and it's just Florida State, and then 3 SEC West teams. SEC West has really been sticking out there. But I would take Florida State over the field, just because I know what I'm getting with Florida State. Yeah, at times they look bad, but not bad enough to lose the football game. Mississippi State has looked good in most of their games. Giving up 34 to UAB isn't what I want to see. That's not something that makes me feel good about Mississippi State. Yeah, they won, and I'm saying that about Florida State. Yes, they won. I mean, Florida State didn't look good versus Oklahoma State. They didn't look great against NC State. In Syracuse, they won by 18, but gave them a little fit. Notre Dame, obviously, winning by 4. That was a close one. But Florida State hasn't lost in 2 seasons. Their team isn't as good as last year. I'll give you that. They also won the championship last year. It's hard to repeat, but at this point in time, Florida State has the best team in football. Florida State is better than the field right now. I would take Florida State over the field at this moment in time. I know what I'm getting, and I like to know what I'm getting. Mississippi State, I've seen them play some tough teams. I've seen them do some amazing things. Alabama, I know they're usually a solid squad. I would probably take Alabama over Mississippi State, and that's going to be an interesting game when they play. I think it's at home, Alabama. I think they beat Mississippi State. And I think Florida State probably still stays second because Alabama will jump them. But Florida State right now is the best team in college football. And until they prove otherwise, aka losing a game or winning by 1 to a team that's unranked and awful, like winning by 1 to, Virginia or Miami. I mean, Miami's 4-3. You look at Virginia. Virginia's, I think, 3-4 on the season, 4-3. Boston College played upset a little bit. They're 4-3. I mean, they got a lot of 4-3 teams left. If they lose by 1, or if they win by 1 to one of those teams in like a Hail Mary, okay, I get it. If they win on a Hail Mary to a worse team, we can talk about them not being the best team in college football. But as of right now, I have to take Florida State over the field just because I know what I'm getting. I know what I'm seeing from Jameis Winston, and he's going to continue to do what he does until he either gets suspended or wins another national championship. And they're my pick. They're my pick to win the national championship. Write it down. Do whatever. Florida State's going to win the national championship. As long as Jameis Winston is the guy at the helm. If he's not, then it changes. But until Florida State loses either a game or Jameis Winston, I got to go with them. I don't see a team that's better. In mentioning those SEC teams, there's 4 out of the top 5 in the West, or SEC West teams are 4 out of the top 5 in the top 25. I mentioned them all at one point: Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Alabama, Auburn. Right now, that's a nice thing to see. I mean, especially if you're an SEC fan and you want your team to kind of make it in, if they can beat a few of these teams. But they all have to play each other again at some point. They all have to play one another. I mean, they don't play. Ole Miss has to play Auburn and Mississippi State. They don't have to play Alabama anymore, but they have to play two out of the four, two out of three, because they are the fourth one. So it's not going to stay that way. Oregon may creep in there. I don't know if Oregon's good enough to win the championship. They're playing all right. They lost to Arizona, who at the time was undefeated, but also unranked. They beat UCLA. They beat Michigan State, the two staple wins for them. They got Utah, ranked Utah left. Stanford's always a problem for them. So we'll see how they do. I don't think Oregon's great, but they could sneak into the top four or into the projection of the top four and try to get a championship bid. But the SEC West isn't going to be like that for too much longer, because at some point they're going to start knocking each other off, because it's going to happen. So, mark it down. Florida State is my national championship favorite as long as Jameis Winston is leading them at quarterback. If he goes out, then it changes, because I'm putting my eggs in Jameis Winston's basket, so to speak. I'm behind Winston. I think Winston's a good quarterback, and I think everybody's ragging on him because of his off-field activities and not giving him enough credit for his on-the-field talent, which is fair, because off-field activities do mean a lot. But I like Jameis Winston. I think he's a good quarterback, and he's going to lead his team to another national championship against an SEC team. Oh, an SEC team? No way. Yep, they're going to do it. Moving on to a different sport, baseball. The World Series starts tonight. You got Bumgarner playing against Shields. Pretty similar stats. Bumgarner was 18-10, a few more starts, a few more wins than Shields, who was 14-8. ERA was right about the same. Bumgarner was sub 3 at 2.98, and Shields was just above a 3 at 3.21. But it'll be a good matchup between them. They're two guys that in the playoffs have been doing pretty well. I mean, obviously Shields has been, because the Royals haven't lost a game yet in the playoffs, which will change. They will lose one. I mean, I don't see them sweeping everybody. That would be something unpredicted, as the Royals are coming out of nowhere and really reaching the World Series, I guess. Nobody expected that, much less even make the playoffs. And then sweeping. So that's just an interesting story. And a lot of people want the Royals to win now just because of that interesting story. You look at everything going on with the Royals. They're kind of a team that came up from nothing. Now they're playing in the World Series. You look at the Giants, who have been there every other year, it seems like. So either you go for the underdog or you're a Giants fan. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, because most people want to see that underdog win. The Royals, I think since '75, haven't won a pennant or the World Series. So we'll see what happens there. And I have the Royals winning in 6. I don't think it goes 7. I think it's a close 6, though. Yeah, I know, a close 6. The Royals don't really seem to put up a whole lot in the runs department. They rely on their defense. At some point, the Giants will get to them. The Giants will get a hold of their pitches and win a couple games. I'm saying the series is 4-2 at the end of it. I think the Royals win tonight, and then I think the Giants take one on the road, and then the Royals take 2 straight, go up 3-1. Giants win 1, and then the Royals close it out, Game 6. But I think this game goes to the Royals. I like Shields a little better than Bumgarner. I like the bats of the Giants more than the bats of the Royals. But again, the Royals' defense is something to not take lightly. The Royals' defense is probably the best in the league. At least in the playoffs, they look like the best team in the league, defensive-wise. Their offense wasn't there, obviously, only putting up 2 runs in the majority of the games, 2 or less. Yeah, they had a few games here and there. And I think that's why the Giants will take a few. The Giants will win ones that are above 3-4 runs. If you get something that's like a 4-run game, the Giants are probably going to win that just because the Royals score 3 or 4 and they're maxing out. Unless the pitching of the Giants really, really craps out. But I mean, you got Peavy, Bumgarner, Hudson. I mean, they're not even playing Lincecum. Lincecum's become just kind of a figurehead for the team. So, unless the Giants really fall apart pitching-wise, they're going to win 2. They're going to win 2 games. But I think the Royals are going to win the series in 6. The pitching's really going to help them out. The defense is going to make some spectacular plays. They're not going to have to hit the ball a whole lot because the pitching and the defense isn't going to give up more than 2-3 runs. So, and the Royals can put up 3, 4 if they have to, and they will. So I got the Royals in 6, which seems to be a favorite. The Royals winning. Not a whole lot of people are picking the Giants, partly because, like I said, it's either the Royals or you're rooting for the underdog or you're a Giants fan. And I'm going with the underdog. I like the underdog, but it'd be nice to see them sweep. That would be interesting to see them sweep the entire playoffs. But I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Giants are a little better than that. And we'll see what happens tonight at 8. 8:07 is the first pitch. It's on Fox. Hopefully they keep it on Fox so it's not like a scavenger hunt to find. It looks like they're going to do that. But, yeah, tonight, tomorrow, and then they get a day break. But it's good to see postseason baseball. Hopefully people tune in and watch it. There's no football on, so it's not really competing versus anything. So we'll see if they can get the ratings up, because that's something baseball's really struggled with. But Royals in 6. Write it down. Put it on the refrigerator. Royals are going to win in 6. Moving on to the NBA. I mentioned that a star dropped from 8th overall in the NBA rankings to 23rd. That was Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving is a top 25, or is a top 5 point guard in the league. I mean, you break it down to who there is. We haven't seen a whole lot from Derrick Rose, but you can put Derrick Rose in there. And I mean, you look at his team too. You got to take that into effect. You look at his team. He's got LeBron James, Kevin Love, Deion Waiters, Tristan Thompson, Varejao. I mean, they got some studs, to say the least. So to say that Kyrie Irving is 23rd in the NBA, under people like, yeah, Al Jefferson had a very good year, probably one of the top centers, and Tim Duncan, again, won a championship. Kyrie Irving dropping from 8th to 23rd is a little far. Okay, maybe he's not top 10 players in the NBA. He's definitely a top 5 point guard. I mean, I take Russell Westbrook. You got Derrick Rose, if you want to throw him in. Steph Curry. There's 3. Chris Paul. Not a whole lot left. Kyrie Irving. And he's young. I mean, you look at that. He's young. You don't put like Rondo above him. And I mean, they have Derrick Rose. They have Derrick Rose 28th. So you take Derrick Rose out of that. Because Derrick Rose hasn't proved anything. I'll just put him in there because of what we knew from him. Point guard wise, Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, Kyrie Irving. I mean, those are top point guards in the league. I'm probably missing one or two. Steph Curry, there was the other one. There's four, and that's including him. I mean, Darren Williams isn't top five. Uh, you got to thinking about teams. There's not a whole lot of point guards that are better than Kyrie Irving. You got to think hard, and I mean, Rubio's definitely not top five. He makes the top 5 point guards, which is surprising. He drops out of the top 20. I mean, Al Jefferson, sorry, jumped from 52 to 22. He had a great season. Absolute great season. He put up 21 points, almost 22, and 11 rebounds in a block. For a center, that's amazing. Kyrie Irving put up 21 points, almost 4 rebounds, 6 assists. That's some pretty good stats, too. And that's with no team. He had no team around him. We're basing this off of this season. We're talking about the 2014 NBA player rankings. So at the beginning of the season, how do we expect them to rank? To have him, to know who's on his team, Kyrie Irving has averaged at least 18 points and 5 assists in each game in his first 3 seasons. Only Oscar Robertson, Magic Johnson, LeBron James, Grant Hill, and Steve Francis have done that. And he's going to continue that with LeBron James, Kevin Love, Tristan Thompson, Verjao, Dion Waiters, just to name the ones that are easy to name off the top of the head. Not to mention Mike Miller, I believe, joined them. Ray Allen's still in the mix for them. So to say he's not going to be in the top, he's not going to be a top 20 player in the NBA, that's a stretch. Al Horford's old. I mean, Al Horford's going to be 30 this year. Tim Duncan's going to be 39 this year. Tim Duncan you can put there. I understand that. Tim Duncan. But you got one good season out of Al Horford, and you're going to jump him all the way up there. Career-wise, he's averaged 17 points and 9 rebounds. We just mentioned Kyrie Irving averaged 18 points, 5 rebounds. Career-wise, he's averaging 20 points, almost 21 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds. You got to look at the team around him and how well he's been playing. And if you did that, he's got to be better than top 20. He's got to be in the top 20. Yeah, I know, he only missed it by 3. It's a lot to get upset about. But he's top 20. And we're going to see it this year. It would not be surprising if he almost averaged a double-double this season. Just because, and probably close to 20 points. You know, LeBron James and Kevin Love, how is he going to average 20? Because they're going to have to double LeBron James or cover LeBron James. They're going to have to watch Kevin Love on the perimeter. That opens up the paint. You got Tristan Thompson, Verjao, Dion Waiters. Waiters is going to be on the outside. So you got either Tristan Thompson or Verjao in the center position in the paint. So it's one, he drives the paint, Kyrie Irving, and either he goes up or he kicks it to Verjao/Thompson for an easy dump, or he kicks it out, if anybody collapses, he kicks it out to, I don't know, Kevin Love, LeBron James, or Dion Waiters for a three-pointer. He will most likely average a double-double, if not close. He's looking at least 8 assists a game. At least. Because of the team around him. Yes, LeBron James likes to pass the ball a lot. That's where Kyrie's also going to get points. LeBron James is going to see him cut in the basket and give him points. Kyrie Irving's going to throw lob passes. There's an assist. Kyrie Irving is a top 20 player, and you're going to see this year that he is. He is definitely a top 20 player. Is he the third best option on the team? Debatable. He probably is. He's definitely worse than LeBron, because LeBron's worse, I guess, isn't the right word. He's definitely not as good as LeBron. That's a better way to put that. And then you got Kevin Love. Well, I always say Kevin Love's underrated. Kevin Love under this, under that. He's good. He's good. Yeah, he can get his rebounds. But I think that's because he had nobody on his team. I think that this year, Kyrie Irving does better than Kevin Love. Just because I think Kevin Love had nobody on his team, therefore he could shine the way he did. And shining the way he did made him a top 25 player. Top 5 player, probably. I mean, you can argue he wasn't top 5, but he was top 10. So, Kyrie Irving may finish the season better on this little ranking than Kevin Love. We'll just have to wait and see. But it's a strong possibility that he finishes better than Kevin Love. Just because I think Kevin Love had to do everything for his team, and now he's got 2 guys who can do everything for their team. And he's just part of them now. Speaking about the Cavs and LeBron came out and said, let me make sure I get the quote, that the Bulls are much better. He said the Bulls are a much better team, or the Bulls are a team that's much better than us right now just off chemistry. They've been together for a while. We've got a long way to go. Is he setting himself up for something? Is he going to say, well, I said that they were better, and let's say that they lose, the Cavs, that is, they lose to the Bulls in the conference championship, Eastern Conference Championship. LeBron can just revert back to that saying, hey, I told you the Bulls were a better team. They had better chemistry. Because the Cavs, I don't think, are the favorite right now. I don't even think they're the second best team in the East. I think the Wizards win the East, even with Beal hurt right now, with Beal with a broken hand. Even with Beal hurt, I think the Wizards win the East. The Wizards only added 1-2 players. Yeah, they lost Trevor Ariza. But in their place, they got a veteran in Paul Pierce, who still can play. I mean, Paul Pierce still can play. Let's not get that wrong. And then you got young stars around them. I think they're the best team in the East. You got the Bulls, the Bulls are stacked. I mean, I'm not knocking the Bulls at all. The Bulls are a stacked team. And they're getting their best player back in Rose. Now, we got to assume Rose is going to stay healthy, which isn't a given. So keep that in mind when you're picking your top 3. So that puts them 2. And then the Cavs are 3rd with there's only one ball. That's a little bit of a problem. Dion Waiters likes his points. Kevin Love likes his points. LeBron will pass the ball, but let's be real about it. He likes his points. Kyrie Irving likes his points. Yeah, Kyrie Irving will sacrifice some. Yeah, LeBron will sacrifice some. I don't think Kevin Love's going to sacrifice some. I don't see Dion Waiters sacrificing some. You got Mike Miller. He's going to touch the ball some, and he won't do a whole lot. Mike Miller won't do a whole lot on the field, on the court. But he's gonna get his. Mike Miller's gonna take the shots when he's feeling it, even if he's not actually feeling it. I just think that the Bulls are a better team than the Cavs, and the Wizards are a better team than the Bulls. The Wizards just got more bench depth, in signing John Lucas III. He's a veteran. I mean, he's a guy that's 31 years old and he's been in the league a while. Yeah, they lost Bradley Beal. That sidelined him he sidelined for 6 weeks. He was born in D.C., so it's a coming home party. That's John Lucas III. He used to be with the Jazz. I mean, he's been in a lot of places, and he's an older guy. He's a veteran. That's what the Cavs need. They need leadership. The Cavs are going to take time to have team chemistry. They're going to have team chemistry problems for a while. And that's going to hurt their chances to be the best in the East. The Bulls are the same thing. Everybody's looking over the Wizards, by the way. Everybody's looking over them because the Wizards didn't make a huge move in the off season. I mean, the Bulls went out. They got Derrick Rose back. They got Doug McDermott, probably going to be the Rookie of the Year. Yeah, he's going to be the Rookie of the Year. I've said that before, and I'm going to continue to say that. They went out and got Pau Gasol. They made big moves. The Cavs got LeBron James and Kevin Love. They made big moves, and they drafted Wiggins, who they got rid of. Not quite sure if that was the best move, but we've talked about it. Cavs made big moves. The Wizards didn't, except they added a little bit of veteran. They added some veterans. You know who else didn't make a whole lot of moves and added a veteran? The Spurs. You know who's the defending champions? The Spurs. They kept the team the same, and they just added a couple of veterans. Yeah, the Wizards lost Trevor Ariza. He's a pretty good player. Losing Trevor Ariza, that's something that it's going to be a little hard to recover for him, but they'll be able to do it. I mean, Paul Pierce, for the time being, will fill in those shoes. They can go out next year and get a small forward. They're looking for Kevin Durant. I don't know if that's going to happen. But they'll get a small forward. They only went out and got better. They didn't go out and get worse. We can't assume that the Cavs obviously got better. But team chemistry-wise, they're going to struggle. The Bulls got better, yes, but Derrick Rose is probably not going to make it the length of the season. He's just like RG3. We know he's going to get injured at some point. It's just a win, not how or why or is it going to happen. It's going to happen. It's just when is it going to happen. And that's what we got to wait on. We'll see. But NBA-wise, we also had a experimental game. The old teams played. Okay, the Celtics aren't old anymore, but they used to be. But the Celtics and Nets played a 44-minute game instead of the 48-minute game. It lasted an hour and 58 minutes, which is about 15 to 30 minutes less than a standard game. I don't think that's really the way to go. If you really want to shorten games, just shorten the season. That's not going to happen, but that's not going to happen because of the revenue that comes in. You want those games to get revenue. I get that. But 44 minutes instead of just play longer games. Yeah, people won't get winded as much and they can be on the floor more. But the 48-minute games, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it seemed quicker. The game was quicker, obviously. But nobody kind of noticed until they look up and, oh, wow, we're already this far into the game. And people that are watching basketball want the long, high-scoring games. People watch basketball because you can score 100-plus points. That's the point of basketball. Everybody loves watching the Knicks and Warriors go toe-for-toe because none of them play defense. They just shoot the ball as much as they can. Or the Warriors and Clippers. Nobody plays defense. They just shoot it 4 billion times and win 140 to 139. People like high scoring. Why do you think football has made it easier to throw the deep ball? And they have. The pass interference penalties and everything. You can't use the hands you can't touch a receiver. They've made it easier to throw the deep ball because it's more points and more excitement. The more points, the more people in America like the game. Soccer's not big in America because it's a slow game that can tie. Hockey's not big because it's a slow game that can tie at 0. They can both tie at 0. Baseball is a slow game that's pretty low scoring the majority of the time. So why make it a lower scoring game? Because that's what shortening the game does. America likes the high scoring games. So making it shorter will not do what they want it to do. Making every game count more would make people watch more and help the players on those back-to-backs and all that. So that's the way, if they really care about it and they really want to change something, they will make the season shorter. Even like 15 games, 12 games. Make it 70 games instead of 82. But we'll see. I don't think they'll do that because you'll lose revenue. And, of course, the NBA doesn't want to lose revenue. Who really wants to lose revenue? It'd just be a stupid move. But they toyed with the 44-minute idea. Obviously, nothing awful came about it, but it doesn't seem like they were impressed enough by it to where they're going to continue to do it. But we'll see in time. They're probably going to do a couple more of them. I mean, you don't save a whole lot when you cut off that minute. Yeah, 82 games minus 4 minutes. That's a lot. I mean, 120 minutes, 128 minutes, something like that. It's a lot. Actually, it's more than that. It's like 300 and something. It's a lot of time, yeah, but just cut the games off the end of the season if that's really how you want to preserve the players or make every game more important or have more people watch. But moving on to the NFL, there a lot went on there. First, you got Percy Harvin traded. Kind of the trade heard around the world, with Percy Harvin being traded to the Jets for a conditional 6th-round draft pick. What else is there to say? You look at it. Apparently, he was a problem in the locker room, which has been apparent from high school on. And everybody knew this. I mean, he tested positive for weed at the combine, or marijuana at the combine, however you want to say it. So you knew he had some sort of background there. He didn't play for the Vikings a whole lot because of migraines. Doesn't seem like a reasonable thing. Just because you're getting hit by 300-pound men on a daily basis, and migraines is what keeping you out. Apparently, there was a story where Percy Harvin had a black eye during the Super Bowl because right before it, he got punched in the face by a teammate. I mean, he sounds like he's not a dude that you want to have on your team for very long. He got him what they needed to. He got him a Super Bowl. Percy Harvin got a Super Bowl ring, and that is enough for him. I mean, he obviously wanted to get out of there just as much as they wanted him out of there. And they gave away 3 picks to get him, might we add. I mean, they gave away 3 high picks to the Vikings to get Percy Harvin, and they got a 6th-round pick back, and they had to give up a bunch of money. And on the Jets side, it was a great move for the Jets. I mean, just think about it for a minute. The Jets didn't have any weapons. Geno Smith, we don't know if he's a quarterback to start or not. We don't know if he's their forever starting quarterback, or their daily starting quarterback, I guess. They only lost by 2 to New England. They're 1-6 on the season. Yeah, that's pretty bad. But they finally got a weapon in Percy Harvin, and we're going to find out how good Geno Smith is. This season, we will find out if Geno Smith is a starting quarterback. We will find out if he is the starting quarterback, the future quarterback for the Jets, because he now has weapons. It's always been, oh, well, Geno doesn't have weapons, so therefore we don't know how good he is. He's got weapons now. And when you bring in somebody like Percy Harvin's obviously the clear number one. Eric Decker is now the number two, going up against the second best corner on the team. Chris Ivory, he's going to run the ball well. Chris Johnson. Percy Harvin opens up the field. And to be honest, the Jets will do those end-around sweeps that Percy Harvin loves. Because the Jets need anything and everything they can get. So, it was a great move for the Jets because they gave up a 6th-round draft pick. You can't get much in the 6th round anymore. You really can't get much in the 6th round anymore. So, they gave up a draft pick that really doesn't even matter for a stud player who they're going to have for 6 months, and he's going to be a free agent, and they're going to let him go because he's not a guy you want to have around on your team for more than a couple seasons. More than a season. I mean, after a season, everything goes awry. So, he's going to be a good rental for the Jets because he's a rental. And after this, we'll see if Percy Harvin can get anywhere. I mean, somebody will pick him up. Somebody will take another chance on him because he's a playmaker. I mean, they really struggled without him. The Seahawks, that is. Really struggled without him. I mean, the deep ball is now gone, pretty much. I mean, Doug Baldwin is their leading receiver. Doug Baldwin is a pretty good receiver. I mean, he's a decent receiver. But he's not at the level Percy Harvin is. Looking at just the stats of the game, Seahawks had almost 300 passing yards. But they lost to the Rams. I mean, when you lose to the Rams, and actually they had over 300 passing yards. I don't know why. Russell Wilson had 313, but the team had, I don't know. ESPN has a messed up stat there. But they had about 300 yards passing and 100 yards rushing by Wilson. I mean, Wilson really, they're relying on Wilson too much. They are saying, Russell Wilson, make something happen with what we give you. And that's Doug Baldwin, some unknown tight end, Jermaine Kearse, and Marshawn Lynch. That's the offense. And they're go win another championship. And the defense is getting torched. I mean, the defense is looking awful. They gave up 28 to the Rams. The Rams. Yeah, the Rams made a lot of good special team plays. I mean, they ran back a punt return that was an amazing punt return that the special teams for the Seahawks looked ridiculous on. They called for it looked like they were catching in one spot, so everybody ran there, and we were on the opposite side of the field, and he ran for a touchdown. And then the punter threw it for 18 yards on a 4th down. That kept the drive going. But Seattle looks bad. Seattle's not going to win the division because the Cardinals are looking like they're real contenders. And the 49ers are still there. The Seahawks are going to be lucky to make the playoffs. Yeah. They're going to be lucky to make the playoffs. And one of the reasons is they got rid of a star receiver in Percy Harvin for better team chemistry. You can't fault them on that. You can't fault them on the fact that they want better team chemistry. Because when you're in a locker room like that, at some point, everything boils over and the team becomes awful. So they're trying to avoid that by going with getting rid of him for a 6th-round draft pick, which is almost nothing, but they got something, I guess. They didn't have to drop him. But Percy Harvin will do pretty well for the time being on the Jets. And will help everybody else on the Jets become better. And the Jets will win some games. Now, they only have one win. That's not what you want to see with the Seahawks. Or no, the Jets. And talking about the Seahawks are actually They've dropped to 11th in ESPN's power rankings. Oh, they dropped out of the top 10 for the first time in forever. I mean, they've been there in the top 10 for the past almost 2 years because they've just been that good. Now they're 3-3, which is actually really high for them right now. I mean, there's a bunch of teams that are 4-3 under them. And above them, they have very good teams in the Broncos, the Cowboys somehow, some way, the Eagles, the Colts, Cardinals, Packers, Chargers, Patriots, Ravens, Lions. I mean, 49ers look like a better team. The Steelers came back. I don't know if I'd say they're a better team right now. The Bengals look like they're falling off. The Seahawks are in trouble. You look at NFC teams. I mean, the Chargers, they're AFC, but the Cowboys or Eagles are going to take one of those. The Cardinals are going to win their division, so there's one spot left for them. The Packers are going to win their division. 49ers are probably going to beat out the Seahawks. I don't like. Right now, the Lions would take the other wild card. So there's both wild card spots gone, so the Seahawks would have to win the division, and the Cardinals are 5-1. And look stellar. Would not be surprised if they don't make the playoffs. The Seahawks, that is. But the Redskins also had a problem this week. I guess a problem is probably an understatement. So Kirk Cousins is now the third string. You got RG3 injured, then you got Colt McCoy, the savior. The savior, Colt McCoy. Kirk Cousins was pulled right before the second half of last weekend's game versus Tennessee. This year, he has 9 interceptions, 10 touchdowns. Through his career, he has not had a positive touchdown to interception ratio. First year, he was actually, I lie. First year, he was 4-3, just over. Second year, he was 4-7. This year, he's 10-9. So once he hasn't been, but career-wise, he has 18 touchdowns, 19 interceptions. I sat on the show on Thursday and said Kirk Cousins is a mediocre quarterback and will not threaten the job of RG3. RG3 won't even get to, or Kirk Cousins won't even get a shot at challenging RG3 because Colt McCoy is now the starting quarterback for the Redskins until RG3 comes back. Fun fact, I remember I said Kirk Cousins this season has not won a game without RG3 playing in it, and he didn't win the game last weekend, so you don't count that. He has won one game in his career where RG3 has not played in. One game. 2012 versus the Browns. Week 15. Look it up. One game. Kirk Cousins has won. Oh, he's had good stats. Winning means everything. If you don't win, it doesn't matter. Tim Tebow won games. Whether you like him or not, his stats were awful, but he made it out of the wild card in the playoffs. And another thing we took from this is not only is Kirk Cousins a mediocre quarterback, the Redskins' offense is potent. The Redskins' offense is very, very, very good. Colt McCoy had 128 passing yards last week. 128. In one half. In a guy who isn't very good. And Colt McCoy is not a good quarterback. I mean, he completed 91.7% of his passes. Only missed one. That's a remarkable from him. But he led them back to win. And Kirk Cousins couldn't. Kirk Cousins couldn't win the game. Kirk Cousins was going to lose that game. Yet the Redskins' offense is probably, just looking at the players, one of the best in the league. Alfred Morris and Ray Halou running the ball. You got Deshaun Jackson, Pierre Garçon, Niles Paul, Jordan Reed. even Roberts. Sorry. Yeah, some people don't like Roberts. Okay. Jordan Reed and Niles Paul have been very good. Roy Halou is even up there in receiving. Pierre Garçon and Deshaun Jackson. Two good wide receivers. Two very good wide receivers right now in the league. The offense for the Redskins is one of the best offenses in the league, just personnel-wise. When RG3 gets back, they're going to be very good if he can stay healthy, because RG3 is a good quarterback. He really is. I like I said, Teddy Bridgewater I think is going to be better. But RG3 is the best option the Redskins have. And he's not a bad option. If he can stay healthy, he's not a bad option. But Kirk Cousins, not only did Kirk Cousins hurt himself and now not starting, he hurt his trade stock. You look at it now, there's not a team in this league that's going to trade for Kirk Cousins. Not for what the Redskins want out of him. I mean, you would trade him at the end of last season. You'd be looking at a high second-round draft pick probably. Depending on the team, maybe first or maybe a third round and a player. Maybe an offensive lineman because that's what they need to keep RG3 healthy. They just need a better offensive line. Now you'd be lucky to trade him to anybody for anything. I mean, I don't even think the Seahawks would have taken Kirk Cousins for Percy Harvin. Which would have been interesting, actually, to see Percy Harvin go to the Redskins to give them yet another weapon, but obviously that did not happen. But Colt McCoy is now the starting quarterback and won a game. Yeah, he only played half of it, but he came from behind and won the game. We'll see what he can do versus Dallas on, I believe, Monday night. Yeah, Monday night. And maybe versus Minnesota the week after, depending on RG3 is, which I would hope they keep RG3 out until after their bye week on week 10, so he plays week 11. If Colt McCoy wins one of those games, he has won more games without RG3 playing or without another quarterback playing than equal to or more than Kirk Cousins. And let's think about this for a minute. Colt McCoy is not a good quarterback. I mean, if you say Colt McCoy, people would be like, oh, yeah, he's awful. Kirk Cousins, therefore, would be awful. Kirk Cousins is not a good quarterback. Kirk Cousins and Colt McCoy are on the same level. They just are. They are. But both have high-powered players around them to make them shine, because Alfred Morris is one of the best running backs in the league when they allow him to get going. Deshaun Jackson is a deep ball threat, but Kirk Cousins couldn't get him the deep ball. And that's the difference. Kirk Cousins could not throw the deep ball accurately. And for that, he's now benched. He's now a backup where he belongs because he's not a good quarterback. And yeah, he may be upset about it. He may be this and that. But he was not throwing the ball to the right team. And when that happens, you get benched. So Kirk Cousins will probably be not re-signed at the end of the season. I think he's got one more year on his rookie contract. So Kirk Cousins will be dropped or not renewed. They'll renew RG3 and all the other players on their team that are star powers, and they'll let Kirk Cousins die out. Because nobody's calling for him in the Redskins stadium anymore. Nobody wants Kirk Cousins. And rightfully so, because he's a mediocre quarterback. The Cowboys go to the other end of the spectrum. Team everybody hates, loves to hate. America's team. They released Michael Sam from the practice squad. They waived him from the practice squad, so now Michael Sam is a free agent. Whether you like it or not, Michael Sam, mediocre. Yeah, he was all right in college. He went 7th in the draft. People are like, oh, that's because he's gay. as we see, he wasn't good enough to stay on the practice squad. Therefore, he's probably not good enough to play in the league. Yeah, we gave him the shot. The Cowboys got to see how good he was, and they determined he wasn't good enough to stay on the team, stay on the practice squad. He was a 7th round draft pick. Yeah, he was the first openly gay player, and that's great to see. It would have been nice for him to be better, because it would have been nice to see him get to actually play. But he was released. Now he's a free agent. We'll see if anybody picks him up. And that's the end of the story. It was a feel-good story for a couple of months, and now we find out that he's not great. We knew that already. That's why he went 7th. Not surprising. What else we got? We got Antonio Brown last night. Don't know if you watched the Steelers. They the big thing was they came back in the final, the last 2 minutes and 54 seconds of the second half. Scored 24 unanswered points. But Antonio Brown was very, very upset at the refs at the end of that game for a touchdown that was called back. So he caught a deep ball in the end zone. Looked good. I mean, it looked good from a touchdown. They reviewed it. It was looking good, and they called it back. Looking at the replay, it looked like he got both his feet down. He actually kicked up some grass with the foot he dragged that they said touched out of bounds. And he was not happy. He let the world on Twitter know he's probably going to be fined for his tweet. But he has a point. I mean, there was nobody around him. It was a good pass. It looked like his foot was in bounds. And it got called back. If anything, it should have been the rule, or the call stands. There's not enough evidence to support it, nor call it back, because they called it touchdown. And looking at it, there was not enough to say that it wasn't a touchdown. If they would have called it not a touchdown, I would be sitting here today and say there's not enough evidence to call it a touchdown. But to say there was conclusive evidence that was not a touchdown, yeah, it didn't matter. The Steelers still won. The touchdown didn't matter. But there was not enough evidence to say it wasn't a touchdown. It should have been called it should have stood as a touchdown. Maybe not confirmed, but it should have stood as a touchdown. And I mean, that's been a problem in the NFL for a little while now. And they're trying to get better on it. There's a lot of camera angles and stuff. Maybe they need a camera angle. Maybe put a camera in the pylon or something. Maybe that's the way to go. But Antonio Brown will be fined for that. And that's all I got on that. I mean, we'll see what comes out of it. But he wasn't happy with the refs, and rightfully so. And finally, in with some happy news, Peyton Manning threw the record-breaking 509th career touchdown. Football is already in the Hall of Fame, so already there, displayed in the Hall of Fame, alongside a sheet of 3-ring binder paper that has 509 written in black ink on it. They're all sitting in the Sports Hall of Fame right now. He threw it on Sunday night, and it's there now. It's pretty cool. One thing that everybody was kind of upset was that he actually, if you saw the celebration, they kind of played keep away with the ball from Peyton Manning. They practiced that. Peyton Manning, which is out of character, he practiced the throwing the ball around him trying to get it, and them not giving it to him. It was kind of funny. I liked it. A lot of people didn't. They were like, oh, I should have been practicing for the game. But they won. Yeah, if they didn't win, it would be a little more of a story. But they won. He threw the 509. He had a little fun. We usually don't see Peyton Manning have any fun on the football field, so to see that, it's kind of nice to see him accept it. He's always he doesn't let anything in there. You have something little. He set up a celebration. It's kind of conceited, I guess, because, he knew he was going to get it. Well, yeah, he knew he was going to get it. But it's kind of nice to see him for once embrace it and have fun with it. But that's all I got. So until next time, Thursday, same time, 4:30, 5 o'clock, or 4:30 to 5:30. Only get an hour. Maybe we'll change soon, talking to people. But covered a lot. There's a lot more to go over. 2 World Series games going on within the next meeting. The next 2 meetings. We'll get my picks on college football or on NFL football. For anybody wondering, I went 8-7 this week. Not great, but we'll go over them. And if there's time, power rankings. Much more in NBA. NBA starts in about a week from Wednesday, so that'll be interesting. Have more to talk about there. But till next time, tune into WODU, the best in college radio. I'm Alex, and this was Cup Check, the best sports radio show in the world.